Thank you for tuning into the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're continuing our 2026 NFL Draft prospect coverage with a focus on the edge rushers. This is one of the most prolific positions every year come draft weekend, and this year's group is full of day one talent. We'll look at the top 5 prospects and a few of our dark horse candidates as well. With the Detroit Lions already in need of support for Hutch here, Brad Holmes will be looking in this group's direction at pick 17 potentially. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Krasinski Drew, joined by Coach Andy Shield, my partner here on the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Position that's pretty important to this group, to our team, the Detroit Lions, in a position, like you had said, that is very, very deep. We're now about almost a week into the free agent period in the NFL, and the Lions have made some noise, and there's been some movement and some retraction of movement in the edge position that's already in the NFL. So there's definitely going to be a need. Like you had said, there are several day one picks. To say how many, we could cover almost 7 to 9 edge players that could potentially go in a first round, very easily. But we're going to give, our feedback on about 5-6 guys that I think for sure are likely to go on day one. And then there's layers of this draft of value that are going to be very helpful. And that kind of brings us back to the Lions then, because with the Lions, we obviously need to address this position. And I think the draft is going to be one of the methods that we do this, and it could be to the tune of 2 different picks. We did some due diligence and addressing some offensive line in the free agent period. We have some dollars that we still need to spend. The roster has turned over enough, and the last 2 drafts have not yielded the type of backfill that we need for depth and for some starters. So away we go, Drew. We could be very well talking about a Detroit Lion here in the next hour.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Coach. Why don't you take us down to top 20 for us?
20 is from the Ohio State Buckeyes, Caden Curry. At 19 from the Western Michigan University, we have Nadame Tucker. He's one of our dark horses. We'll be talking about him a little bit more down the road. At 18 is Mikael Kamara from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. At 17 is Kieran Crawford from Auburn. At 16, Anthony Lucas from USC. And at 15, another one of our dark horses. Drew, you'll be talking about him a little bit down the road. Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida. At 14, LT Overton from Alabama. At 13, Dennis Sutton from Penn State. I know the Lions have looked at him. At 12 is Joshua Josephs from Tennessee. In at 11, Romello Height from Texas Tech, one of 2 Red Raiders that are on the big board. At number 10, another dark horse for us here is Derek Moore out of Michigan, another player that the Detroit Lions are quite high on. At 9, Gabe Jackas from Illinois. It's a hybrid player, can play some linebacker as well. At 8, another dark horse for us, former Michigan State Spartan and Missouri Tiger, Zion Young. In at number 7 is R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma. And at 6, TJ Parker from Clemson. Into our top 5, and the guys we'll be focusing on here a little bit more here, Akeem Mesidor out of Miami, one of 2 Hurricanes edges that we made our big board, and we'll be talking about in depth. At 4, Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. At 3, Keldrick Falk out of Auburn, a guy that really has climbed the ladder. At number 2, a hybrid outside linebacker edge in David Bailey from Texas. A guy that has a tremendous value in this draft. In many ways, maybe the number 1 edge, but not on our board, Drew. Not on our board. The number 1 edge on the Sports Peninsula podcast big board for 2026 is Ruben Bain Jr. out of the University of Miami.
Yeah, and I'll get right to it, Coach. It's Ruben Bain Jr. He is our number one edge prospect. He's a 6'2", 263-pound junior. He's a Miami native. He also was an Under Armour High School All-American Game participant. He won 4 state championships in high school at Miami Central. That's incredible. He won the Ted Hendricks Award last year. He also was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year last year, and also in 2023, freshman All-American status and an All-American last year as well. He's a 3-time All-ACC player, Coach. For his career, 121 tackles, 33 and a half for losses, 20 and a half sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 1 INT in 39 games. For his career, he's got 114 hurries, 17 quarterback hits in 39 games. Coach Ruben Bain Jr. is a disturber on the defensive line and on that front. Talk about what you like about him.
Well, like I said, I think David Bailey, these guys were neck and neck on our board, and there are some people that are putting Bailey ahead of Bain as a pure edge. But with Ruben Bain, why I think, in my estimation, he's the number one guy is his alignment versatility along the front. Bailey is a back, can go off and play some linebacker, and he's outstanding at it. He provides a lot of positional versatility, and we're going to get to him here in a minute. But what Ruben Bain brings is a lot of alignment versatility. You can line him at the 3 technique, at the 5, make him more like a defensive tackle. You can have him be more with a traditional defensive end. You can have him lined up nice and wide like we do with Hutch. There's a lot of different things that you could do with him, and he plays the run very well. He plays the run very well, much better than David Bailey, in my estimation, from what we've been able to evaluate on film and what we saw this past year. He's a compact body at 6'2", 263. So he's not a monster, mind you, in regards to really, really long and having a lot of height. And he's not, it's super imposing physically, but he's got a nice frame to him. Started 36 games and 39 possible games for the Hurricanes, right out of the city of Miami, where he played at Miami Central. So he's a durable player, and he's a guy that got on the field right away. It shows that in his transition, he should be able to do the very, very same thing wherever he lands in the NFL. Knows one gear. He's like the new EVs, Drew. He's an instant throttle, and he goes right off the get-go. There's one gear. So he plays hard and heavy. And he's a guy that's an effort player. He's going to clean up a backside. So if you don't have a good backside blocking scheme, he's going to chase things down. And like what was happening to the Detroit Lions a little bit at the end of the year last year, when we were having so many woes with our offensive tackle position on the backside, being able to run to our offensive right. We were not able to seal, and guys like Ruben Bain Jr. made that very, very difficult for the Detroit Lions. Like we had mentioned, he's a great run defender, Drew. He brings that element to what is a very much a developing and very prosperous already pass rush plan. He can really use the power to leverage, offensive tackles. So he can really, use that speed to power move and press an offensive tackle and, win with outside leverage, because he's a leverage master. He's very technically sound. This is a really, really good fundamental football player, Drew, that does all the right things and is explosive in the pass rush, which sometimes those 3 things do not come together.
Yeah, and to me, that's why we have him here at number one. Like you already articulated, his versatility along the line of scrimmage and his ability to play the run, that's what puts him a notch ahead, in my estimation, is yours as well. But Coach, he's got a few things to work on, right? So let's talk about that.
Well, his tackling needs to improve. And when you're a defensive end style edge, you're not always tasked with making a ton of tackles, but you are expected to make the tackles that come your way. And when you condense or, chase from the back to make some plays from the backside and clean things up and clean, cut back alleys up and those kinds of things, he's got to improve in that area. He's got, he's not the most astute tackler. David Bailey, probably we could talk about that being a strength of his as well. However, he is a defensive end, so he's going to be condensing and bouncing a lot of tackles as well. So we're in making plays, not necessarily tackles. So it's not necessarily a huge ding to Ruben Bain. But he's very dependent on his power moves, his power to speed, pass rush. He needs to diversify that repertoire a little bit, which is likely to keep him a little bit silent. I don't think we're talking about a rookie here that's going to be a double-digit sack guy. I think this is something that could be in the upper, half. He could get, 5.5 to 2 towards 10. But, and I think Ruben Bain truly is a guy that can be a double-digit sack person once he diversifies his pass rush repertoire somewhat. Again, he's not the longest frame. I wonder if he's going to get levered a little bit on the edge. Some good perimeter blockers and a good perimeter blocking scheme. The Detroit Lions and Drew Petzing, the type of personnel packages that they could put out there could be an absolute pain for Bain. Not to make rhymes here, Drew, because when he's asked to lever the edge that way with a lot of reaching perimeter block action, he could struggle with that. He gets over aggressive. We say that a lot with a lot of defensive prospects. I know it's kind of easy to point to which prospect can't get over aggressive when you're a hungry, hard running football player like Ruben Bain. But it is something that he's gonna have to clean up because he'll lose some technique and make a play that he should be making or he has made, but won't be able to finish it with a tackle because he could be out of position or he could get himself blocked in a good blocking scheme pretty easily. He's just got to make the requisite refinements. I mean, he's really what you would expect at the top of a big board or a leaderboard for a position group. Probably in any given draft, Ruben Bain would be up the ladder there. He's just got to make the requisite refinements in his tackling and his technical execution and learn the scheme that he's in and combine that with good technique. Ruben Bain's going to be just fine. He's going to be really good.
He's a real good football player. I can't imagine he's going to get out of the top 5. It's possible, of course, but this is a really, really good football player. But, Coach, let's talk about our number 2 prospect on the board.
Well, we mentioned them quite a bit in the first one, too. At least I did. Now you can blame me for that one because, folks, this could be the number 2 overall pick in the draft. We could have spoken of the number 2 overall pick in the draft as well, and Ruben Bain Jr., but our number 2 prospect is really, it's 1A, 1B. That's David Bailey, who's an edge linebacker, a little bit of a different player here, out of Texas Tech. Or Texas Technological University, if we want to be academically and educationally accurate. 6'4", 251-pound senior. He's from California and he's out of Mater Dei High School, which is one of the nation's, illustrious high school football programs. He runs a 4.5 flat 40 and has a 10.9 broad jump. Now we'll talk about some guys that even have some more athleticism, but that's awful doggone good there, Drew. He didn't spend his whole time down in Lubbock, Texas. He started off in Stanford. He was a freshman All-American there, and they had 111 tackles, 22.5 tackles for loss, 14.5 sacks, and 7 forced fumbles with the Cardinal. This was a young man that played quite a bit of football out there in Palo Alto, California. Transferred down to Texas Tech, where he was a consensus All-American this past season. He was all Big 12 with the Red Raiders. 163 tackles, 42 tackles for loss, 29 sacks, and 10 forced fumbles for his career. 10 forced fumbles. That's a playmaker and a guy that's creating a lot of turnovers. 86 hurries, 27 quarterback hits for a career. Drew, David Bailey has been a menace, wearing a Red Raiders uniform and a Cardinal red uniform for the Stanford Cardinal. David Bailey has been in the backfield making a mess of things.
Yeah, and I think here's a few reasons why, Coach, and you touched on it already a little bit. He's more than an edge. He's an elite offensive linebacker prospect as well. So, again, there's that versatility that Bailey has, a little different from what Bain has. Both are effective. Elite at NFL athleticism. He benched 405 pounds. He squats over 500, and he's clocked at 22 miles an hour in football speed, in pads. That's awesome. He brings high-level positional versatility, as we talked about. His best first step explosiveness. He has the best first step explosiveness, if I can speak this morning, of all pass rushers in this draft. Again, that's what's very enticing about David Bailey, man. He is a killer on the edge. elite turnover creator. You touched on it, 10 forced fumbles in his career. He's blazing fast as a speed rusher. He impacts pass coverage too. That's what's important. He's a disruptor in many facets of the game. He plays with sublime flexibility in his arc and bend to the quarterback, and he's a high level hustle player. And he cleans up the backside. Very important. He brings advanced pass rush a plan to the NFL. That's so huge. And Bailey, being 6'4", 251, a little more length to him than Bain, coach. And he is lightning quick around the edge. A lot to like about him.
Yeah, and I think probably in day one, of the last two players that we've just spoken of, what one is ready to make a bigger impact statistically and on the NFL red zone and those kinds of things. Well, I mean, if you had to put a gun to somebody's head to make a decision there, you're probably going to go. At least I would probably go with David Bailey. Just because he can play off the ball and impact the game and make a bunch of tackles. Okay, he can do that. Where Ruben Bain, you can run away from him or run inside of him and not really, get him on the stat sheet so much. If you can keep him at bay in the pass rush, David Bailey can do more than just pass rush. He can pass drop. He can affect things back there. He can play off the ball. David Bailey can impact the game in so many ways, Drew, making him so valuable. He's kind of that Micah Parsons type of football player. That's the type of game that he brings to the table. That's the type of, I'm not calling him the next Micah Parsons necessarily, although he could be. He could be. He certainly could be that good. But he brings that type of athleticism and that type of versatility to a football field.
Yeah, now he does have some things he's got to work on. He doesn't have a ton of power in this game. Athleticism and speed, check, double, triple check those boxes. Not as much of power in this game, but he's able to play to his strong suits. But in the NFL, again, he's going to have to make sure he's definitely focused on his strength, and especially at the point of attack. Struggles when engaged with offensive tackles when he's getting off blocks, and it can be an issue. So he's going to be facing the best of the best right now. In the NFL tackle, he's going to have to be able to do that. He does not play the run or anchor at the line of scrimmage like Bain does, and that's what we talked about. Bain's versatility is along the line. Bailey's is being able to drop back in the pass coverage as a stand-up linebacker, where he's in a 3 technique or 2 technique. He can do those things, but he's a much better pass player than a run player at this point. He is guilty of losing scheme integrity and focus due to over-aggression. And we talked about that too, Coach, right? What prospects aren't super aggressive at this level? Again, got to harness that in a little bit, or there's going to be a lot of yellow hankies on the floor, on the turf as a result. So he's got to clean that up. Frame is likely maxed out in relation to his position versatility. So if he's going to remain a guy that can go and drop back and be in a 2-point stance or a 3-point stance. I said technique. I apologize. I meant a stance. It'd be a 2-point stance or a 3-point stance. He's going to have to keep his weight right around there so he doesn't lose that athleticism and ability to drop back and cover. But Coach, ton to like about him, and I agree with you. I think it's depending on the team. If you've got a couple of D tackles in the middle of your line that are 330 plus, David Bailey's probably your guy. If you're looking for some help at D tackle as well, Ruben Bain, would be your guy then, in my view. But that's where we see David Bailey at this point. Any last thoughts on Bailey, Coach?
I mean, it's schemes. I mean, if you're more of a 4-3 team, you're probably more of a Ruben Bain type. That's who you're looking for. If you're more of a 3-4 schematic or a diversified scheme, David Bailey is certainly somebody you'd entertain. If he has a little bit of frame to work with. I mean, if he was to commit and become a full-time edge, he could certainly put on 10, 15 pounds.
Yes.
And go from there. The one thing that I think, Ruben Bain does is classically play the run a little bit better than David Bailey, but David Bailey does bring a positional and versatility to things that Bain doesn't. So, I mean, you really can't go wrong with either one. This would be a home run draft pick for somebody. It's going to be a home run draft pick for somebody.
Yeah, 2 top 5 talents right there. Likely likely 2 top 5 picks, but we shall see. And at number 3, we have Keldrick Falk out of Auburn, coach. A little bit bigger defensive end, a little different player here. 6'6", 276-pound junior. He's from Highland Home, Alabama, so he stayed in state. He was an Army High School All-American Bowl participant. He also was a freshman All-American in 2023 and All-SEC player in 2025 last season. In 32 games, he started out of 37 in his career. In 2024, he had 11 tackles for loss and 7 sacks. For his career, 109 tackles, 19 and a half of those are for loss, 13 sacks, 6 pass defended, and 2 fumble recoveries. For his career, 73 hurries, 9 quarterback hits, 13 sacks in 37 games. Keldrick Falk's a nice defensive end, coach, and an edge rusher. Talk about him.
Well, it's nice to see a guy. He's kind of your classic football player. He comes from like a rural part of Alabama, a small school, and was a super talent. Has a massive frame. He has the frame. Now you're talking. That's your classic edge frame. Your NFL defensive end frame at 6'6" and 275, 276. He had a huge year in 2024, put up a lot of numbers, and looked like a guy that was destined to be what he is, and which is a top 3 edge prospect in the NFL draft. And follow up with his junior year was real strong. Ran away from him a little bit, and they slid protected and chipped for him. Well, there's another edge from Auburn by the name of Kieran Crawford that is also a guy that I'm thinking Keldrick Falk helped to make a little bit better because of the awareness that he brought. He brings that frame, Drew. He's got NFL ready size, 6'6", 276. He looks the part in the uniform and is the part in the uniform. He's alignment versatile. This is a defensive end, so you're looking at like 7 wide 9, 7 5 technique alignments, which really I know is just a bunch of numbers to people if you don't know what those things mean. But if you think about a 0 being at the center, almost the nose of the center, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. With 9 being well outside of the offensive tackle, all those numbers from the left to the right, 1 through 8, can fit in as a technique and an alignment. And a guy like Keldrick Falk can really do things basically from the 4 alignment out to the 9, and that's a lot. That provides a lot of ability to do some different things with your defense and help him do things. He's a great edge setter. He's your classic defensive end. Very good functional athlete. He brings requisite physicality for the NFL. So I mean, this is a guy that from looking at film, the schools that he played against, and some of the plays that he had against the teams that he had, he can give substance to starter reps in the NFL in the 2026 season. He's good. He's a good football player. He's another guy that can clean up that backside and play with great effort. And he's got the levers. If Ruben Bain may struggle on the perimeter a little bit, being at 6'2", and David Bailey, being maybe not his strong suit, is engaging and beating blocks. Keldrick Falk does well on the perimeter. So he's the type of defensive end you want, going into multiple tight end sets, the people that do attack the perimeter with different types of blocking. He has also been someone that has been somewhat rumored to be a Lions of interest, and I can see why, Drew. This is, I think, what we envisioned with Marcus Davenport. If Marcus Davenport could have stayed healthy, you would have with Keldrick Falk.
Yeah, good comparison, coach. Similar frame, similar football player. Yeah, I think the reason why he's definitely third on our list is because he doesn't have as high of a ceiling necessarily as a pass rusher. I know you'll talk about that a little bit, as Bailey and Bain. However, man, I tell you what, I hope he's at 17, because that means there's difficult decisions to be made for Brad Holmes, meaning there's going to be multiple possibilities there, and this would be a very good possibility at edge for the Lions. But talk about what he needs to work on, Coach.
Well, he's not as showy, and he's not as numbers inducing as maybe what Bain, could be or will be, and what Bailey can bring to the table. He doesn't have that kind of bend. He's not quite that athlete. He's not as explosive and as speedy as those guys. He's got to develop his plan, his pass rush plan. He got, I wouldn't call him being stonewalled classically in the rush game necessarily, but he's got to diversify and be able to do some different things to be able to get to the quarterback more. Because he was kind of solved at times a little bit in the 2025 season. I wasn't saying he would be shut down in the pass game, but I think Bain and Bailey do bring a dynamic in pass rush that Keldrick Falk is still working on, but he may never quite get to either. He's a better run player than he is a pass rush player at this point in time. That's not saying he's inept in the pass rush game. But again, I think this is an evolving pass rusher, somebody that could get a lot of snaps and reps as a rookie, but may not necessarily have the biggest totals when it comes to sacks. And he may be more of a rush or a hurry type and pressure type of pass rusher early on in his career than he is quarterback hits and sacks. So a little more doubles and singles than he is triples and home runs in the pass rush game until he develops a little bit, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where I see things with Keldrick Falk.
Yeah, I tell you what, like I said, I really hope he's there at 17. I feel very comfortable with him, having watched games, watched some film, looked at his rankings, look at where everyone's kind of seeing him. He's definitely going to fall. It's a pretty broad spectrum of where he falls, and as far as I see, he could go as high as 10. He could drop into the upper 20s, but I'm hoping he's there at 17 because I think his talent, he should go between 10 and 15. It's going to depend on teams in need, obviously, and that's always a factor. So if he could slip down the board a little bit, that would be a beautiful thing for the Lions, certainly.
Yeah, he certainly does fit a need for us. We even penciled in. I mean, he really could be what Marcus Davenport never was for the Detroit Lions. He could really be that. And he's built very similarly, and he's younger and more durable already. So he does bring those things to the table. I mean, we have some other needs on the other side of the football too. Blocking a guy like a Keldrick Falk that will be also looking in at around 17. 17 is our chance at Keldrick Falk, or higher, like you said, it'd be some sort of move up. That is going to be our chance. If we decide to do something different at 17, Keldrick Falk is not likely to be a Detroit Lion. But 100%, Drew, this is one of those people you circle and look at as a potential Detroit Lion because he really does fit a need critically. And I think that he is the type of player that could take that Marcus Davenport starter's role and be supported. We may have to get him off the field at times. We will have to get him off the field at times. We have to get Hutch off the field at times.
Sure.
To refresh a little bit. But, Keldrick Falk is somebody to put on the Lions' radar.
Who we got at number 4, Coach?
We have another player that has been looked at a little bit as a Detroit Lion type because he's another classic defensive end. And this is a young fellow by the name of Cassius Howell, 6'2", 253-pound senior, playing this past season for Texas A&M. He's a Kansas City, Missouri native who played a lot of his football in the MAC. He played down at Bowling Green State University. He was a proud Falcon, was a 2023 All-MAC player for BGSU. 13 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks for the Falcons in his career. He did transfer down to College Station, Texas, to play for the Aggies, where he was a consensus 2025 All-American. He really hit the big time this past year. Also all SEC, and was the 2025 SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Had 14 tackles for loss and 11.5 sacks this year. Had 13 tackles for loss and 11.5 sacks as a Bowling Green State Falcon. So he basically had a career year this past season. For a career, he has 35.5 tackles for loss, 27 sacks, 80-plus hurries, 15-plus quarterback hits, 15 pass deflections, or knockdowns at the line of scrimmage in 56 games. A high impact pass rush guy here, Drew. Cassius Howell has proven in his D1 college football career that he can get to that quarterback.
Yeah, he certainly has, Coach. And like how we compared Bain and Bailey at the top of the first round, I see similar comparisons between Falk and Howell here at 3 and 4. I could see teams taking Howell over Falk because they're going to really be enamored with the statistics and the athleticism. And I'm going to take a look at that right now coming up here. He's got real good bend and arc and athleticism as a pass rusher. He's physical and explosive off the snap. He gets great vertical gain and to really bend in the pass rush, and he keeps contained principles. That's important. He's a quality backside cleanup man. That's super important, especially obviously in RPO league. A lot Lions fans remember the Ben Johnson days. A lot of the razzle dazzle. Of course, the Lions still employed some of that with Dan Campbell, of course. But you need that. You got to have a guy that on the weak side that's going to be able to clean up that backside in essence, and that's what Cassius Howell is very good at. He's a relentless and skilled pass rusher. Elite in college of batting balls at the line of scrimmage. You talked about, Coach, 15 pass deflections. That's having elite athleticism and timing and just awareness overall. And he's a force player. He's got requisite results both at Bowling Green and at A&M. So he's a special player, Coach.
Yeah, he's hit his doubles, triples, and homers in the pass rush game in college, and I think that's where really his most steadfast role and what makes him a little bit different than Keldrick Falk, Dave Bailey, and Ruben Bain Jr. He could be what is referred to as a pass rush specialist or a designated pass rusher, and not an every down player necessarily at the beginning of his career, or he may have just a window of time in where he is a true every down player. He's 6'2", 253, so the frame is not massive, but he is so impactful in getting to the quarterback and creating a stir in the pass rush. So we may be talking about as talented of a pass rusher as there is in this draft.
That's a great point, Coach, and it's amazing. He's our number 4 guy, right? So that shows you how deep this.
He brings that element.
This group is deep. But you touched on a few things. He does need to work on some stuff. He's compact rather than maxed out, and that could be a concern, like you said. He does struggle with perimeter leverage once he's engaged. Too many instances we've seen on tape getting reached or hooked and kind of nullified in the pass rush. So he's got to work on that. He's a much better pass rusher than a run player at this point. That's been a narrative, although there's been exceptions. Falk, that's an exception. Not the best edge setter in the draft, and he's ready for rotations, but is he ready for every down in the NFL? And that's what you touched on, Coach. Is he a pass rush specialist? Can he evolve into a 3-down player, or can he be a 3-down player? We're not really sure. We do know he's going to be in heavy rotation as a pass rusher. So Cassius Howell is going to see the field a ton in his rookie season. And he has some serious run skills to develop in order to be an every down player in the NFL. And that's what he's got to really work on. So, Coach, when I'm thinking as a Lions fan, I get enamored. The shiny objects, the 40 times and the sack numbers, and Cassius Howell's got all that. I would not be upset if Brad Holmes went the route of Cassius Howell. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted over Falk. But personally, I do like Falk a little better because I just think he's more NFL ready and he's more versatile on the D line. That's why I like him better. But Howell's a great football player.
It's scheme fit. I mean, Cassius Howell kind of brings to the table sort of what Al-Qadim Muhammad brought, what James Houston brought when prior to Al-Qadim Muhammad, who are now 2 former Lions.
Exactly.
That's the type of player that he brings. Yeah, I think the roster needs a little bit more of a player, a little bit more of an every down type. Cassius Howell is not ready for every down yet. He's going to be impactful, and he's going to have some pass rush numbers as a rookie. And you wait and see. He's the AFC or NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year because he's going to have the greatest run stats on Pro Football Focus because I said he wouldn't. But I'm not some sort of predicator that knows these things ahead of time. I just know what I saw watching him on YouTube here a little bit, and I saw a fantastic pass rusher and a modest run defender for the SEC, which tells me he's got work to do to be, even modest in the NFL. So yeah, he's a designated pass rusher right now. Can he grow from that? He certainly can. But yeah, I think the Lions need maybe a little bit more of a full spectrum edge prospect.
Certainly at 17, no question. Absolutely, I agree with you. At number 5, we got Akeem Mesidor out of the U of Miami. Ruben Bain's partner in crime over there, 6'3", 259-pound senior. Man, imagine Mesidor and Bain on the edges. That's why they got to the national title game, man. So they got a special team this year, last year, I should say. Ottawa, Ontario, Canada native, and he transferred from West Virginia. Now, when he was at West Virginia, he was a 2-time All-Big 12 player. 14.5 tackles for loss and 9.5 sacks in 23 games for the Mountaineers. He's a 3-time All-ACC player at Miami. He was an All-American last year, and he started 52 of 65 games in his career, combined West Virginia and the U. For his career, 208 tackles, 52.5 for loss, 35.5 sacks, and 5 forced fumbles. Now, he's had multiple foot surgeries, missing 13-plus games due to injury, and that's the issue here, Coach. But if you just simply look at the body of work and the talent, Akeem Mesidor is a hell of a football player.
Yeah, and now we talk out of the top 5 guys that we've talked about so far. This is yet another player that brings heavy positional dynamic versatility. He, unlike David Bain, though, is a guy that can go down inside of that 5 or 4 number and play the 3, the 2, the 1, or the 0 technique and be a defensive tackle. He can play defensive line as well as the edge, and he put up requisite numbers. And Akeem Mesidor is a warrior, Drew. He's played football from the get. When he came, across the border from Canada down to Morgantown, West Virginia, he was playing. He was playing for the Mountaineers and was rotational and eventually a starter and a multiple-year All-Big 12 player before he transferred down to the U and made his name as a Hurricane. So this is a highly seasoned and well-versed, experienced veteran football player out of the nation of Canada. And he is a firm edge setter. This is a guy that plays with a lot of defensive line anchor and ability. So he can really set that edge in the run game. And he's truly alignment versatile. He is maybe the one prospect we've talked about so far that can go 0 to 9. And what I mean by that, by alignment, a 0 would be a right on the nose of the center and work his way outward to eventually the 9, which is way wide of the tackle. He can line in all of those different alignments and bring that to the table. Maybe a little bit more ready than any prospect we have on the board. Really fiery and competitive. Got to play that way when you're playing in the trenches, and he does so. Super, a lot of explosive, great get off the line of scrimmage, really explosive off the snap. And he's a high-level hand fighter. He possesses some advanced pass rush, skills in his ability because he's got to fight from the interior a lot. That comes from his experience as a pass rusher, as a defensive tackle. And he really can work his hands. True scheme and positional versatility. 3-4 and 4-3 be damned, Drew. He can play in either scheme because he can play defensive end, defensive tackle, or nose tackle. He's real physical, responsive run player. Got to if you're on the inside and being more of an anchor type. Very technically advanced in a lot of areas in the defensive line. Drew, I mean, this in many ways, and Keldrick Folk would be too. He'd be very similar to a Marcus Davenport. But, I mean, this is the type of player, Akeem Mesidor, would be a perfect fit across the defensive line from an Aiden Hutchinson. And really, Akeem Mesidor can be he can be Marcus Davenport. He can be Josh Paschal, who's no longer with the Lions. He can be Le'Veon Roods-Wike. He can be Deshaun Hand. He can be Rashawn Gary. He can be a lot of different types of football players that have a great versatility as starters on a defensive line and produce. There's a lot to like with Akeem Mesidor, and a lot to like for a scheme fit with the Lions too.
I know, and that's what it's difficult. As I'm sure their front office is going to struggle with this as a fan. if I don't look at the medical report, I'm digging Mesidor a lot at 17. But I can't get past that, coach, at 17. Talk about that and some of the things he needs to work on.
Well, I know it's for some of the fan base, Drew. It's been very du jour and very chic to take pokes at Brad Holmes because
You're
he's
kidding.
the guy that put the Lions in such a bad position, right?
Oh yeah,
So like the injuries be damned. We gotta grab Brad by the shoulders, man. Don't go towards the team. You see that injury history. Keep him away. Keep calm, Brad. Yank the chain on him a little bit, right? Just teasing Brad Holmes. But yeah, that is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That it does kind of scare me off a little bit just because it's chronic. And it's one thing to have one injury. I mean, football is a game of injuries, and that's going to happen. I mean, let's hope that Brian Branch bounces out of an Achilles injury like Jason Tatum seems to be with the Boston Celtics. He has this injury and is playing the next season. Well, advancements can take place and those kinds of things happen. This is something that's required attention year after year. And it's a foot issue. And it's been nagging. It's a ligament problem. And it's something that's going to bother him again. It's just going to. Do we want to entertain that? Because the Lions have been bitten by this. We've not gotten lucky with that. So that would be something to think about. He is a little bit smaller. For his frame is, we're talking 6'3", 259. Fully maxed out, he's probably a 270 to 275 player. In that area. You can just see right there he's standing up. That's him playing some nine technique right there. It's fairly maxed out, maybe not completely, but we're not talking about the biggest guy either. So I mean, will his game translate requisitely to the size and speed of the NFL? So I mean, yeah, there's some considerable mass that we might need to think about, to put on to replicate what he was able to do with West Virginia and Miami. He can stall out the power game. He's got to play that way a little bit. If you're going to line up inside, you've got to use the power moves and bull rush a little bit. And he's going to stall out against some of these big dogs that, these old linemen are just so big and strong. And that's going to be something that he's just going to have to diversify from. He plays with such aggression, Drew, and I know to the naked eye, the layman fan will just see these great effort when he's leaving his feet and diving, and it's great hustle. Football players are best with their feet on the ground, not when they're leaving their feet.
It's true.
Just like hockey players are, just like anybody. You want to be on your feet, and he does leave his feet. You can just see right there, a lot of paint on the uniform and that kind of thing. We want him on his feet more and those kinds of things because he can get, and a lot of that is being guilty of suffering from the ails of over-aggression and being just overly aggressive and leaving his feet and losing his technique. He's rotation ready for sure. But he's got to get bigger, I think, to be that 3-4 down player, which he certainly can be. He certainly can be that 3-4 down player, in the NFL with two things: adding to that frame and keeping that foot healthy.
Yeah, you touched on it. I definitely in a 4-3. Yeah, he could play D tackle or defensive end. In a 3-4. With more mass, he could line up in that zero technique in certain packages. Certainly a D end, and even as a stand up or a wide 9 in a 4-3, like you're illustrating here, Coach. He's got a lot of versatility. Yeah, to me, it's all about the injury. It's all about the injury. How is that foot? If the foot's sound, okay, let's look at it this way. If you're a GM, right, you're looking, will that foot hold up for the first 5 years? If the answer is yes, then Akeem Mesidor is somebody that the Lions will be taking a serious look at 17. If the answer is no, then obviously not. But gosh, there's a lot to like about him, man. But these top 5 are something. The fact that the Lions have a very big need there. Now, thankfully, they've got one of the best, arguably the best in the league at Hutch at one side. But the coverage bare right now. Losing Muhammad, and waiving Pascal, they have to fill the pipeline. They need about 3 edge rusher defensive ends. So this is the time. We got some dark horse candidates to look at before we wrap this one up. Coach, we'll start with you. Who's your first one?
Well, and this is another one I think now we could be talking about in a trade back scenario or maybe going towards 50. However, I think this player is playing himself in towards the back end of the first round. And that's another true defensive end style player, a la Keldrick Falk, and Zion Young out of the University of Missouri Tigers. 6'6", 262-pound senior. He's a 3-star player out of Atlanta, Georgia, was recruited initially by Mel Tucker at Michigan State and played at Michigan State. Played 20 games for the Spartans and with 11 starts before he transferred down into the SEC. He was 2025 all SEC selection with Mizzou. So he really shined with the Tigers. 84 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 5 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 defensive touchdown in 26 games with the Tigers. So he's played 2 seasons, started 37 of 46 games with Michigan State and Missouri. So this is a guy that's been out on the field the majority of his college career. He can get out there. He can give you some reps right now. 131 tackles for a career, 28.5 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks in 46 games, 75-plus hurries, 30-plus quarterback hits, which means he's getting to the quarterback. He can get himself into that doubles, triples, home run range, if we're going to use a little baseball analogy in the pass rush analysis here, with 5 pass deflections and 11.5 career sacks. He's got the big frame. He's got the big NFL frame, Drew. He brings that. And he does provide some positional and alignment versatility. I think he can work himself down maybe inside of the 4 technique and give you some defensive tackle too. So a la Levy Onwuzurike and Josh Paschal could in that similar kind of vein. He really's got a great run anchor, which is so important. It's what the Chicago Bears are going to try to do. It's what they all do. It's what all the teams that we have to beat are trying to run the football. They need to run the football. Good football teams that win, the San Francisco 49ers, run the football. It's a team that we have to be able to beat. He's very good against the run. Zion Young is good against the run right now. He's a technical and responsible pass rusher. He maintains the contain principle, which makes the defense better. If he's not hitting home runs, if he's just applying hurries within the contain principle and the scheme of the defense, that defense is yielding better results. And that's what can make a player that's not even that splashy in the pass rush numbers per se be a real effective pass rusher nonetheless. Hard running, relentless motor. A guy that cleans up the backside real well. You can see kind of an element right there. He's chasing something from the backside right there. You can see, I believe this is Mississippi State. Some big offensive lineman there on the left side is missing him. And he's shrunk down and condensed the backside, is chasing something down. Big Zion Young, Drew, is a guy that I think is a real fine football player and is going to play in the NFL. Now, he's got a little bit of a checkered past. He had an assault in East Lansing too. He put his hands up and got into a fight. We're not going to talk about that one too much, but he was charged with assault in East Lansing. A fight can happen a lot of different ways. It's a college campus with a lot of young, foolish, young men that aren't always making the greatest decisions. So who knows what happened there? But one that does need to be mentioned is he had a recent DUI. Yeah. And there's no call for that. That's a very, very poor decision. Puts a lot of people in jeopardy that way. You need Zion making better decisions. He's got to become a better decision maker. We drafted a guy that had a little bit of an issue with that a few years ago that plays wide receiver for us, and he struggled into his career a little bit too in making some decisions. We're talking about JMO. We don't want to add a person that could bring a recklessness that way into the culture. That would be a concern. Back to the football side of things, he can be a little more upright, which means he's going to get blocked and can kind of get nullified. Those are things that he's going to have to work through. He's not as bursty and bendy as a Bailey or some of these other players that we're even going to talk about here as dark horses. He's more of that anchor. He's very Keldrick Falk-like. very Keldrick Falk-like in what he brings to the table. So, his functional athleticism is a little bit limited as compared to some other prospects, but he's a real fine one in the NFL ranks, Drew. He's going to get drafted no later than early day 2. I'm projecting day 1 still, and he's going to play some football in that rookie contract and get some starts.
Yeah, to me, the Lions, if they were to trade back from 17, then Zion Young, to your point, would be very much in play. He won't be there at 50. Nope, not at all. So, yeah. And yeah, the outfield stuff's a concern, but I do like the fact that he's got a C on his jersey there. So that does show that he's got some leadership capabilities and respect of his teammates. So that's a big plus, too. Who's your second guy, Coach?
Well, we're going to stay right, close to home. I wore the stuff, I don't have my MAC championship football stuff and Myrtle Beach Bowl stuff or any of my row the boat things from the great football program we have in Kalamazoo. I'm honoring our wonderful hockey program, but we're going to stay at the alma mater, Drew. We're going to stay at one that's near and dear to you and I, and talk about defensive end out of the Western Michigan University, Ndame Tucker, 6'2", 247-pound senior. This is a dark horse guy. This is a player that makes it in the NFL, because there's a lot of stories like this in the NFL. But Ndame Tucker was not an Under Armour All-American or an Army All-American Bowl participant. He wasn't that level prospect. He's born in New York City, so he's from the Big Apple, and he played high school athletics and went to high school in Teaneck, New Jersey. So he's probably from that side of New York City, where he actually went through Jersey City and into New Jersey to go to school. Now, he played basketball in high school. He didn't play football until he was a high school senior. And he enjoyed it, and he wanted to continue to pursue it, but he had no one recruiting him. He was not on the radar at all, so he had to go the JUCO route. And he went down into last chance U territory, played for a couple of schools that were highlighted in that great series down at Independence and Hutchinson community colleges in the Kansas League. And he was very, very productive there. Had 19 and a half tackles for loss, 14 sacks in his 2 years of JUCO ball, played at each junior college down there before transferring to Houston initially. So he climbed the ladder and was a D1 prospect, but he did not really take off down in Houston for the Cougars. He played 13 games in 3 years. So there's a lot of stories like this, folks, and they're great stories of young men that persevere and use sports to obtain their college degree and to go into their professional careers. And that's something that would be a phenomenal story in of itself, but it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. Ndame Tucker transferred to Western Michigan University. And this past year, he had 55 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, and 14 and a half sacks and 4 forced fumbles in his 1 year of substantive Division I college football playing. So he's very much a Johnny-come-lately. But he was all MAC for the Broncos and was the 2025 MAC Defensive Player of the Year. From a guy that did not play much football these last 3 seasons. He is explosive off the snap. I was at the game that we see the photo from. This is from the home opener or game 1 this year for Michigan State. This is him getting a hold of now former Michigan State quarterback Aiden Childs, who's now with the Northwestern Wildcats, for a sack. Spartans won that football game. That's just one of a couple of losses for the Broncos all year. Broncos played really good on defense, and he was back there causing some problems. Really kept the Spartans off the board in the second half. He uses his hands really, really well. And he knows how to do it. He's got some football in him. He's got some football in him. He definitely does. He's been tucked up, through his time, learning the game from his senior year of high school through the JUCO ranks and at Houston and over in Kalamazoo. He's developed some skills. So he knows when to engage and he understands the power to speed to power game a little bit and can use those combinations for a smaller defensive end prospect. So he's a pass rush guy. He is definitely a pass rush guy. He's a great closer. He's very productive. He gets those doubles, triples, home runs. He's across the board, creates in the pass rush. He really, really does. Very quick and reactive athlete. And he plays with that great flex and arc. a guy that can be a designated pass rusher. This is a very much a guy that can be a designated pass rusher in this league. He's very undersized, Drew. He's very undersized. I don't know if we can ever call Adame Tucker an every down type of defensive end outside of a situation where if your roster gets a little bit lean because of injuries, that would be a way that he does, because he's got to put some frame on. Needs significant refinement as a run player. This is a guy that's still kind of learning the game at the age of what's going to be 26 years old during his rookie season. So, he's kind of a later prospect here, and still a guy that is very much a diamond in the rough. His sample size, as a rags to riches player, is very, very, he's very much a Cinderella story. Does he have glass slippers on? Is it going to return to that? Or can he forge a role as a designated pass rusher and be somebody that can really be scheme specific and help out a defense? I would love him on day 3. I think he provides value to a team like the Detroit Lions in day 3. I think he could be that additional pass rush type of specialist that you add as an edge player for you in being able to generate those kinds of things. That's what he is, Drew, and he's probably a day 3 selection. Maybe into the latter parts of day 2, he could extend into the 3rd round. But I would expect him. Would I be shocked if he was selected in the 3rd round? No, I wouldn't, if someone values him that much. But I would say round 4, round 5, round 6 is when Adame Tucker, I think, comes off the board, and we have plenty of picks in those areas. We've got some picks there. I would love to see him here, but you're going to see him playing next year on the 53-man roster. I really think he does make it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm with you, and he's going to be great day 3 value. Great day 3 value. If you can afford to take him. Now the Lions, it's going to depend. What do they do? Day 1 and day 2. If they address the position there, then actually he's more in play, very much so. If they hadn't yet, who knows? Maybe he still is. I don't know. I mean, but I would not balk it off if the Lions took Adame Tucker. Very good football player. I'm not being biased that he's from Western. He played well. He graded out well in that state game and also in the Illinois game. So it's not that he just faced MAC opponents. He did face a couple Big Ten teams too, and he played very well. And you got to know they scout. They know Tucker's the man there. They were going to give him extra attention. So he handled himself very well. So nice couple candidates there, Coach. They're going to be good football players. We got a couple here. We got Derek Moore out of Michigan, University of Michigan, defensive end, 6'4", 255-pound senior. He's a 4-star recruit out of Baltimore. He went to St. Francis Academy. He's an alumni of that prestigious high school. He was also part of the national champion 23 Wolverines. He's a 3-time All-Big Ten player. He's a team captain at Michigan, team defensive MVP, and the overall MVP. He won the Bo Schembechler Award last season. He played in 53 games. He started in 24 for the Wolverines. For his career, he's got 95 tackles, 24.5 for loss, 21 sacks, 8 pass defenses, 3 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries, and also a defensive touchdown. Makes things happen out there. He's a disruptor. Career 65 hurries, 20 plus quarterback hits, 21 sacks in his career, and 8 passes defended in 53 games. Derek Moore's a nice football player. We like his alignment versatility. He can play inside, he can play outside, he can play defensive end and defensive tackle. He's a very adept power rusher, which is, and he's not a huge guy. He's solid, 6'4", 255, but he's a very strong football player. He's a good power rusher. His requisite gains as a playmaker with increased reps. The more he's played, the better he's getting, and you can see it on tape. He plays with great leverage and with pro-ready technique. You expect nothing less from Michigan, right? I know there's a lot of people out there, Michigan fans, so you can know what I'm saying. But he's a menacing presence creator, pressure creator, and he finishes well as a tackler. So very fundamentally sound and makes plays. Now, there's some concerns here. He is a better pass rusher than a run player. Pretty typical coming out of college. He's got to work on his run defense, certainly. He's lean frame. He could use some more mass. How much could he put on? Depends. Maybe 10, 15 pounds, possibly. hard to say depending on how he can handle it and still maintain his pass rush capability. He's not the most explosive player, and he does need to develop, as I said, as an NFL run defender. But Coach Derek Moore is a very solid, I would say, lower ceiling, but a higher floor candidate.
He brings the type of defensive end play that is kind of that steady Eddie type of play there. He which is a great offset to have. He's very responsible that way. He's got to become a better run defender, and he's got to put a little bit of mass on. You know, this is a guy that we probably need to see 10 to 15 pounds on to have him play at his greatest anchor capability is a edge setter and run defender, along with being able to add to the pass rush as well. He's disruptive in the pass rush game. He certainly can hit home. The University of Michigan, you know, like them or leave them, you know, depends on who you are. I mean, we all know, and I know very, very much, you know, like, you know, the sports trend game, if you know, the sports talk game, which, you know, is as big as anything these days and has been for since, you know, social media has really taken off. It's in sports talk, TV and radio. It's also kind of posh to kind of pick on the University of Michigan football program as it was established under Coach Harbaugh for some of the misgivings that program is guilty of. But at the same time, they have produced a phenomenal football product over there. And they really are preparing football players to be NFL players. Derek Moore is one of these. He played in a pro defensive scheme. I mean, this is a guy that has learned to play football under Mike McDonald, Jesse Minter, and Wink Martindale. 2 NFL head coaches, one of which has just won a Super Bowl. A guy that is, you know, once again back in the NFL as a defensive coordinator after coming to Michigan here. So, I mean, Derek Moore has been around some coaching, Drew. He's been around some coaching. So, I mean, now, where does he fall? I think this is a guy that could be more at 50. I do. I think there's a possibility, because if there's just a run on at the edge position in the first round, there's going to be a void, and there's going to be a run on other positions that are going to kick some guys down into the second round. He's day 2 player, second round player. I don't think Derek Moore gets out of the second round. How early does he go? He could go into the 30s very easily. Mm-hmm. And he could go higher. Yeah. But I would really, really like to see Derek Moore, you know, as a Detroit Lion, because he's a very responsible player that can grow and develop. He comes from that mindset and that growth mindset that he played in Ann Arbor. And he could be a really, really nice fit that way. He's just not probably every down ready yet. But Derek Moore, in his ceiling, Drew, is an every down starting NFL football player on a winning team and providing as an edge player.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. If there's a run on edges early, which I would lean towards there being one in day 1, there's going to be other position groups that are going to, you know, obviously, like you said, could be pushed down into day 2. That could push Derek Moore closer to 50. I still don't see him being there, but it could happen. But yeah, absolutely would love to see Derek Moore in Detroit, but he's going to be a good football player, a really good football player. And if they did take him at 50, I'd be very pleased. Here's our last dark horse candidate out of Central Florida, going with Malachi Lawrence, 6'4", 253-pound senior coach. He was a 3-star prospect from Louisville, Kentucky. He was an East-West Shrine Game participant. He ran a 4.52 40, and he has a 40-inch vertical, athletic, 10-10 broad jump. He's a 2-time All-Big 12 player. He had 22 starts in 39 games playing for UCF. And last season, he had 30 hurries, 3 quarterback hits, 11 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 3 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. Great season. For his career, 28 tackles for loss, 20 sacks, 5 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, over 65 hurries, 10-plus hits on the quarterback in 39 games. He's a disruptive player. He has an NFL frame, and he looks to be buildable, so he can put on some mass too. As you can see him there, he's a longer guy, so he can put on some mass. Hard running motor and a great upper player. That's something that jumps off the tape. Really explosive and has great burst off the snap. He's got an advanced pass rush skill set, and he has a versatile plan. He's smart. He knows how to attack. and he bends and arcs as a pass rusher with speed and precision. He definitely looks the part, no question about it. What does he need to work on, though? His run play still a work in progress. He's got to work on that. He does hang on blocks and gets locked up too often. He's got to be able to shed the blocks and have an adjustment ready. And he appears a bit top heavy. He needs to add mass in his anchor, and he needs physical development before he contends for an advanced role in the NFL. But, Coach, I see Malachi Lawrence being a pretty effective player year one, even if it's just as a rotational piece in somebody's scheme, but nice football player.
100%. And this is, again, a borderline day one selection. Could go on day one, not going after day two. He's getting selected by Friday night. He brings an element to the pass rush game right now. And what he needs to do is he needs to get into into the nutritionist and into that weight room and get that frame bulked up, because he needs to get bigger. He needs to get bigger. And just looking at this photo, and I'm the one that put that photo there because I think it's a great photo of him. But there are some concerns too. We need to look at these two Don Joy knee braces that he's got outside of his pants, and he's also got a shoulder harness on his left shoulder that's wrapped out. Why are we? I mean, are we talking about a guy here that has some hard miles on him? And this is a used car market that we're going into in the draft. You're going into the draft. You're getting these players young. You're getting them brand new and fresh. No, you're not. They played football for a long time at a very high level, and it's been very, very physical on them. Yeah. So what kind of mileage are we getting in a player like Malachi Lawrence? And he started 22 games in 29 or in 39 total games that he's played for UCF. That's a nice number, and he's played in 39 games, so he's played quite a few. Has those games taken a toll on him? Has practice in the game of football taken a toll on Malachi Lawrence? Those are things that I don't know, and I'm only being presumptive of. But he does need to get a little bit. That lower leg mass needs to get stronger, or he's going to have problems with those knees.
Yeah, you get it.
Get a little bit bigger. But, Malachi Lawrence is a guy for maybe a little bit different reasons, but not dissimilar to Derek Moore, Drew, is a potential 3-4 down player and starter in the NFL that can really add to a pass rush too, and put some nice numbers up.
Yeah, Coach, always great talking football with you, but love the edge rush position and certainly being a need for the Lions. And folks, don't get it twisted. It's a need. They only have Hutch right now. They need help there badly. It won't just come from the draft. They're going to have to sign some more players. I won't go into any other speculation you're hearing out there, but hey, you know what? Everything's on the table at this point. And I'll talk, and it's about Max Crosby. I mean, is he available still? What's the story there? Who knows? You hear them mentioned again with them. Don't know, but they need to do something there. There's no question. Whether it's at 17 or 50 and on day 3, and then who are you looking at in free agency? But any final thoughts, Coach, before we wrap it up?
You did a pretty good job of it, Drew. It does, and I know I am not in the camp. I think there's way more good decisions being made in Allen Park in Detroit than there are ones that aren't worked out or are not going good. But if there has been something that has not been addressed these last couple of years, it has been the edge position substantively. It has to be addressed. Like you said, that we have one outstanding Pro Bowl type player there, but really nothing even else is here anymore. So we have to address this through draft. And like you said, probably in the way of some free agent work too, which the Lions like to do a certain type of way, at least at this stage of how we're doing things with the franchise and the program. Do we expect some veterans to come in? Who those will be, we shall see. But I think we talked about a guy that's going to be a Detroit Lion. I really, really do in this episode. Which one of these young men will that be? I am not so sure, but I really do think we talked about one of them, maybe two.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Hey, folks, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. Don't subscribe to the channel. We're going to be covering every position. This is our 9th season doing this. Cover every position leading up to the draft, and we'll have our first round mock draft right before the 23rd, which is when the actual first round is. So we'll have it right before that. For Coach Andy Shield, I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. This has been a Sports Peninsula podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can also follow us on X as well as Facebook so you don't miss an episode. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula podcast.